He told people I wasn't ready to make my own decisions anymore. He said it calmly, like it was a favor. I heard it last from someone who shouldn't have known at all. If someone in your family ever spoke for you before speaking to you, tell me about it in the comments. The place near the Oakland docks stayed busy at lunchtime. Orders moved fast, plates landed hard on tables, voices overlapped without apology. I sat halfway through a sandwich when a man from the neighborhood slid into the opposite chair without asking. He leaned forward, lowered his voice, then stopped bothering to keep it down. "Your son's getting things ready," he said. "Paperwork, estate stuff." I didn't answer. The man kept going. "He told people you weren't doing so well. Said it was better to handle it early. You know, before things got complicated." The words landed flat. No pause, no drama. Just information delivered like a weather update. I asked one question. "Which firm?" The name came quick. A law office in San Francisco, specialized in Wills Medical Authority long-term planning. He mentioned it like it was common knowledge. Paid his bill. Left. The sandwich stayed where it was. So did I. A phone vibrated against the table. Ethan's name showed up. I answered. "Hey, Dad," he said. His tone carried that careful balance he used when speaking to doctors or airline staff. "Just checking in. How are you feeling today?" "Fine." A pause. Then, "You've been pushing yourself. Maybe too much. Might be time to slow down a bit." "I've got work later. That's what I mean." He kept his voice level. "You don't need to prove anything." "I'll call you back," I said. Dad. The line went dead before he finished. I stood dropped cash near the plate and walked out. Traffic moved slow along the water. While waiting at a red light, I dialed the number the man had given me. When someone answered, I said I was gathering information for a family matter. The woman on the line didn't hesitate. "Yes, we have an appointment scheduled under Ethan Harris," she said. "It concerns his father's health status and asset planning." Soon I asked. "Next Tuesday." 10 a.m. The clinic in Berkeley didn't ask why I was early. They checked my name, handed me a clipboard, and pointed me toward a seat. A few minutes later, a nurse called me back and took my vitals without comment. At the front desk, I asked for copies of my records. "All of them," I said. She looked at the screen, then at me. "Someone already requested a summary last week." "Who, a family member?" she replied. "They asked about cognitive decline." The word sat between us longer than it needed to. She added almost as an apology. "It happens more than people think." Paper slid across the counter. Lab results, notes. A paragraph near the middle had been flagged with a yellow marker. A line about temporary fatigue after a long project cycle. Nothing else, before or after it. Context stripped clean. I folded the pages and left. The drive to the old site took longer than usual. Construction trucks crowded the entrance and a new supervisor waved me through after checking my badge. The place had changed, but the layout stayed familiar. Steel beams waited to be set. Crews moved between tasks without stopping to chat. Someone from the office spotted me near the trailer. "Didn't expect to see you today," he said. "Heard you were stepping back." From what health stuff he answered, already uncomfortable. "No offense?" "No problem," I said. "Let's go over the load schedule." The conversation ended there. Work resumed. Still a few looks followed me across the site. Not curiosity, confirmation. During lunch, another voice joined the chorus. "Take care of yourself," a foreman said while packing up. "You've earned it." "Still earning," I replied. The afternoon wrapped without incident. By the time I left, the rumor had a shape. Not sharp enough to argue with, but solid enough to travel. That evening, a community meeting filled a small hall not far from my place. Folding chairs, printed agendas, the usual complaints about parking and noise. Marcus Reed waved me over from the back. You look busy, he said. Everyone seems to be, I answered. We sat through half the meeting before stepping aside. He listened while I ran through the day, the clinic, the site, the phone call I hadn't returned. Marcus didn't interrupt. Who's speaking for you? He asked when I finished. No one should be. But someone is, he said. That's the problem. A woman from the board walked past us carrying a stack of forms. Marcus waited until she cleared the doorway. Confronting your son won't stop the process, he added. If he's already filing, emotions won't slow it down. I wasn't planning to argue. Good. Watch the paper trail instead. See what's being submitted. That's where the damage happens. A man called the room back to order. Marcus tapped my arm once and returned to his seat. The meeting dragged on. Votes were taken, complaints logged. When it ended, my phone showed 2 missed calls and 1 unread email. The subject line carried the law firm's name. I opened it while standing near the exit. Confirmation of appointment. Ethan Harris. Next Tuesday. 10 a.m. The message included directions, a reminder to bring supporting documents, and a note about discussing medical authority and asset management. I forwarded the email to myself and closed the app. Outside, Marcus lingered near his car. Anything new, he asked. Enough, I said. He nodded. No follow-up. No advice. The doorbell rang before noon. Not a call ahead, not a text. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there with 2 grocery bags and a paper sack from a pharmacy down the street. Thought I'd stop by, he said. You sounded tired the other day. He stepped in without waiting for an answer and set the bags on the counter. Soup containers, protein drinks, a box of supplements I'd never bought for myself. You didn't have to do this, I said. It's nothing, he replied. You shouldn't be worrying about meals right now. He moved through the house like he'd been there yesterday. Cabinets opened. A drawer slid out halfway, then pushed back in. Your paperwork's all over the place, he said. We should organize it, just to be safe. Safe from scrambling later. He caught himself. From unnecessary stress. I waved him toward the table and sat down slower than usual. Shoulders dropped, hands rested longer than needed. He noticed. That's what I mean, he said. You don't have to push, I'm not. A folder appeared from his bag. Blank tabs. A pen clipped to the side. This is just preparation, he continued. Planning ahead. Everyone does it. Planning for what? For every possibility, he said, avoiding the word both of us heard anyway. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice lowered. I talked to a professional, he said, just to understand the options. What options? Support, he said quickly. So things don't fall on you. I nodded once and let the silence stretch. A legal specialist, he added. They deal with this kind of thing all the time. The pen tapped the folder twice. He slid it closer. You wouldn't even have to think about it, he said. I could handle the details. Which details? He smiled, like I'd missed something obvious. Appointments, accounts, decisions if it comes to that. A pause. Then softer. I'm trying to help. I shifted in the chair, let out a breath, rubbed my wrist as if it ached. Long week, I said. Relief crossed his face. Not concern. Relief. I can stay a bit, he offered. Make some calls, get things started. No need today, I said. Sit. Eat. He stayed for another half hour, talking around the same point from different angles. Less work, fewer responsibilities, letting go of things that mattered less now. When he left, the folder stayed behind. After the door closed, I waited a minute, then picked it up and set it in a drawer I rarely used. The phone came out next. Marcus answered on the second ring. He admitted it, I said. Admitted what he's already talked to a lawyer. Marcus didn't ask which one. That means it's further along than conversation, he said. Did he mention medical authority? Not directly. That's how it starts, Marcus replied. Estate planning sounds harmless. Guardianship isn't. What do I do? Nothing yet, he said. Let him think the path is clear. If he believes he's ahead, he'll keep moving. The call ended there. That afternoon, I pulled up the email again. The firm's address, the floor number. Tuesday, 10 a.m. I checked the route from my place. Traffic estimates, parking options. Ethan texted an hour later. Left some paperwork. We can go through it next time. I replied with a single word. Thanks. The elevator doors opened onto a narrow hallway lined with closed office doors. I arrived early and took a seat along the wall jacket folded over my arm. A receptionist glanced up once, then returned to her screen. 10 minutes later, Ethan stepped out of the elevator with a man in a gray suit. They walked side by side, close enough to suggest familiarity but not comfort. The lawyer spoke first. Ethan nodded, then laughed at something I couldn't hear. They passed without noticing me. Through the frosted glass of the conference room door, voices blurred together. A few words carried. Capacity. Concerns. Not fully able to manage decisions on his own. My phone vibrated before the next sentence could reach me. The number belonged to my bank. This is a verification call, the woman said. We've received a request to change the authorized manager on one of your accounts. Which account? She named it. A business account tied to my consulting work. I didn't request that, I said. There's a pending hold, she replied. Until we confirm signatures and legal standing. When did this start? This morning. I stood, stepped away from the door, and ended the call. The receptionist looked up again as I crossed the hallway. Can you tell them I'll need to reschedule? I said, already moving. Outside traffic pressed tight against the curb. I flagged a cab and gave the address of the nearest branch. The lobby was half full when I arrived. A teller directed me to a desk near the windows. A man with a badge clipped to his belt introduced himself and pulled up my file. There's a temporary restriction, he said. Standard procedure when there's a dispute about authority. Who filed it? A third party, he replied, claiming concern over your capacity to manage financial matters. I slid my ID across the desk. I'm here, I said. Yes, he answered not unkindly. But the request is already logged. We need documentation before restoring access. A form appeared. Then another. Signature lines stacked neatly at the bottom. For today, he added, transactions are paused. How long depends on verification. The pen felt heavier than usual. I signed where he pointed. The phone buzzed again. Marcus this time. Where are you? He asked. Bank, I said. He moved faster than I expected. I'm on my way. By the time Marcus arrived, the explanation had been repeated twice more. Temporary freeze, protective measure. No accusation, just precaution. The words slid past each other without touching. Marcus leaned over the desk. Is there a court order? He asked. Not yet, the man replied. Then this is voluntary compliance. It's risk management, the man said, keeping his voice even. Marcus nodded. Understood. Let's document everything. Forms changed hands again. Copies were made. A note added to the file. When we stepped outside, Marcus didn't say anything right away. We walked half a block before he stopped. You let him get too far ahead, he said. I know. You still have options, he continued. But this window is closing. I can feel it. Back at the house, the phone rang once more. A voicemail from the law office, polite and firm. Please confirm attendance. If you're unable to join, we'll proceed as scheduled. I didn't return the call. The notebook came out again. Times adjusted. A new line added beneath the bank's name. By evening, emails stacked up. One client asking why a payment hadn't cleared, another checking in just to make sure everything's okay. I replied with short assurances and no detail. Dinner stayed untouched on the counter. The folder Ethan left sat where I'd put it. I opened it for the first time. Blank tabs, no documents, just space waiting to be filled. The phone buzzed again. A message from Ethan. "Everything okay? The lawyer said you might be tired today." I typed a response, deleted it, then typed another. "Long day. We'll talk later." The conference room door was already closed when I reached the floor. Voices carried through it anyway, muted but steady, the cadence of people confident they were speaking without interruption. I waited long enough to hear my name. "Pattern of decline," the lawyer said. "Recent confusion, fatigue, difficulty managing affairs." That was when I opened the door. 3 heads turned. Ethan's face tightened first, then rearranged itself into something careful. The lawyer stopped mid-sentence. "I'm Daniel Harris," I said. "The person you're discussing." No one spoke right away. The lawyer stood. "Mr. Harris, this meeting is about my capacity," I finished. "I thought I should attend." Ethan pushed his chair back slightly. Not enough to stand, not enough to stay relaxed. "Dad, you weren't supposed to, I know," I said. "That's why I came." The lawyer glanced at a folder on the table, then at Ethan. "We'll need to pause," he said. "There are procedural issues now." "Before you do," I replied. I brought documentation. I placed a slim binder on the table and slid it forward. Medical reports from Berkeley, recent evaluations, no highlighted lines, full pages. Behind those active consulting contracts and the latest bank statements showing routine activity up to the day before the hold. The lawyer flipped through them slower with each page. "These weren't included," he said, looking at Ethan. "They weren't relevant," Ethan replied quickly. "I was focusing on selective excerpts," the lawyer cut in. "That's a problem." Ethan's voice sharpened. "I was trying to protect him." "By removing context?" the lawyer asked. The room shifted. Chairs scraped softly. Someone outside laughed at something unrelated. These notes, the lawyer continued tapping a page, refer to temporary fatigue after a prolonged workload. You presented them as ongoing impairment. Ethan stood this time. "You don't know what it's been like," he said. "I've been carrying this alone. No one asked you to," I said. He turned toward me, eyes already wet. "I did what I had to," he said. "Someone needed to step in." The lawyer raised a hand. "This conversation needs to stay factual." He looked at me again. "Mr. Harris, based on what you've provided, there's no immediate basis for incapacity. However, the way this was filed raises concerns." "What kind?" I asked. "Misrepresentation," he said. "At minimum." Ethan shook his head. "So now I'm the villain." "No," the lawyer replied. "But you may have exposed yourself to risk." Silence returned heavier this time. "I'll need to notify the court that the subject of the petition appeared in person," the lawyer said. "And that supplemental information contradicts portions of the filing." "What happens now?" Ethan asked. "There will be a review," the lawyer answered. "Possibly a hearing." Ethan's shoulders dropped. "I was under pressure," he said. "Work, family, everything landed on me." The lawyer closed the binder. "Intent matters," he said. "So does accuracy." I gathered my papers. "Are we done?" I asked. "For today," the lawyer replied. "No decisions will be made until this is reviewed." Ethan looked at me, then really looked like he was searching for a response he could work with. "We should talk," he said. "Not here," I replied. The lawyer escorted us out separately. In the hallway, Ethan fell into step beside me. "I was trying to help," he said again. I kept walking. Behind us, the conference room door closed, and with it, whatever certainty he'd walked in with. The hallway at the Alameda County Courthouse moved at its own pace. Numbers were called. Folders changed hands. People waited without looking at one another. Marcus and I stood near a bulletin board covered in notices, our paperwork clipped and ready. At the window, a clerk reviewed the filing and slid it back for signatures. "Statement of opposition," she said, "and a request to review accuracy." Marcus nodded. "Also a record of omissions." The clerk stamped the top page and passed it through the slot. Next. That was it. No reaction, no comment. The process absorbed the paperwork and kept moving. Outside, my phone rang before we reached the steps. The bank's number again. Mr. Harris, the representative, said temporary access has been restored, pending review. "How temporary?" I asked. "Until the court responds," she said. "You'll receive written confirmation." I thanked her and ended the call. Marcus watched my face. "That's one lever," he said. "More to come." By noon, an email arrived from the law firm. Short, formal. The attorney representing Ethan was withdrawing due to ethical concerns related to the filing. No explanation beyond that. No invitation to respond. Another message followed from the court clerk confirming receipt and scheduling review. Ethan texted next. "Did you file something?" "Yes," I replied. A pause. "Then my lawyer says he can't represent me anymore." "You'll need another," I said. Silence after that. We met later at a notary's office a few blocks from my place. The appointment had been set the night before. A woman checked IDs, laid out documents, and asked if I understood what I was signing. "I do," I said. She pointed where to initial. Then where to sign. The new will reflected changes I'd avoided for years. A different executor. A trust provision for causes I cared about. Clear limits on who could act on my behalf and when. No ambiguity left for interpretation. When it was done, the notary stamped each page and handed over copies. "Keep these secure," she said. Outside, Marcus waited by his car. "You didn't hesitate," he said. "There wasn't room." I answered. That afternoon, the phone rang again. A court officer this time confirming that the petition to limit my capacity had been suspended pending further investigation. "No action required from you today," she said. "Thank you." At home, I returned calls I'd put off. One client asked about the delay. "Bank issue," I said. "Resolved." Another wanted reassurance about continuity. "I'm handling it," I replied. In the evening, Ethan showed up without warning. He stayed on the porch. "They're asking me questions," he said, "about what I submitted." "They should," I said. "You didn't have to make this public," he added. "I didn't," I said. "You did." He looked down at the step, then back up. "I thought I was helping." "I know," I said. "That doesn't change what you did." He waited for more. None came. A message arrived on my phone while he stood there. Notification from the court portal. Status update petition suspended. Awaiting final determination. I pocketed the phone. Ethan exhaled. "So what now?" "That depends on you," I said. He nodded once and left without another word. The hearing took less time than the security check at the entrance. A small room. A clerk reading from a prepared sheet. No raised voices. No speeches. Based on the record, she said the court finds that inaccurate information was submitted. Ethan's name followed, then a list of consequences. Loss of representative authority, removal from decision-making roles related to my assets, no criminal referral at this time. I stood when instructed, answered when addressed. So did he somewhere behind me. We weren't asked to speak to each other. That part was already settled. Outside the room, a court officer handed me a copy of the decision. "Effective immediately," she said. I thanked her and walked down the hallway without looking back. The law office was quieter than before. Different energy. paperwork instead of posture. The attorney reviewed final documents, explained what was already familiar, then slid them across the table. "This closes the matter," she said. "If you want to pursue further action later, you can." "I don't," I replied. She nodded and made a note. When it was done, she offered her hand. I shook it, gathered the folder, and left alone. By the afternoon, work had resumed its usual rhythm: a site visit, a call with a project manager, questions about timelines, nothing about family, nothing about court. Between meetings, I opened a browser and searched for a weekend climbing course north of the city. Something basic. No certification, just movement. I signed up and closed the page before second thoughts had time to form. That evening, the mail arrived. One envelope carried Ethan's name crossed out in pen, redirected back to the sender. Another was from the bank confirming restored authority and updated records. I filed both. No messages came from him. None were expected. The next morning, I packed a small bag for the weekend. Gloves, a jacket. The notebook stayed behind this time. Before leaving for work, I paused at the front door and checked the lock on the safe. Habit, not worry. At the office, a colleague asked how things were going. "Settled," I said. He nodded and moved on. Later, while reviewing a set of plans, a notification came through the court portal. Final confirmation. Case closed. I archived it. The climb course started early Saturday. A group of strangers. Brief introductions. Instructions delivered without ceremony. We moved through the exercises, corrected each other when needed, waited our turns without conversation. At one point, the instructor asked if anyone had prior experience. "Some," I said. "Then you know the rule," he replied. "Control stays with the person on the rope." I nodded and stepped forward when called. That night back home, I sorted through the last of the documents. One page still listed Ethan as next of kin. I updated it, signed, and placed it with the others. No anger followed. No relief either. Just completion. The phone buzzed once while I was cleaning up. A message from an unknown number. "It's Ethan." I got the notice. I stared at the screen, then typed a response. I know. Nothing came back. The phone went face down on the table. I finished what I was doing and turned off the light. Morning came early again. Another workday, another schedule. The same life adjusted. Keys in pocket, jacket on, door closed behind me. The distance stayed where it needed to be.